Welcome back to the NuttyCast. We are here live with Eric Berley of Franklin Fountain and Chain Confectionery, and we are in beautiful Old City, Philadelphia. In fact, today we're in a space that I think, you had acquired a few years ago, but are refurbishing it here now, which is a space I didn't even know existed a few doors down from their main establishment here on Market Street. We're on Market Street, really close to like where it jumps off into 95 and the river and everything. So very historic part of the city, beautiful part of the city, and beautiful like old buildings. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube or wherever else, like I'm just so impressed by like the space that we're in here. So
thank you, Caleb. Welcome.
Thank you. And also, we're enjoying some pistachio ice cream right now. So the way I know Eric is Franklin Fountain has been a customer of Nutty Novelties for about 5 years now. They buy our pistachio butter in bulk form, which is not a cheap investment. It's the most expensive product that we make, 30-pound buckets of pistachio butter, and they use it to make this pistachio ice cream, which is unbelievably creamy and delicious and has big pieces of real pistachios in it too. So anyway, I digress. But here we are. And Eric, my first question for you, and again, for those of you watching on YouTube or anywhere else, like even just the way Eric is dressed and presents himself and lays out the spaces and stuff like that, even this water bottle, like very brand conscious. And like I've been kind of, we're in the midst of doing like a rebrand here soon. And like, so I've got these things on kind of the forefront of my mind. And I think you've done a beautiful job with branding. What is your mentality when it comes to branding and like the images and stuff that you guys present to the public?
Yeah, well, the overarching family of brands between Franklin Fountain and Shane's would be old-fashioned, right? It's America's oldest continuously operated confectionery, going back to 1863.
1863
is the building
right here?
Yeah, right. Yeah, at 110 Market Street. So we are in the Cacao Pod. That's the name of our new space. This is going to be a private event space where we roast cocoa. We store cocoa beans in the basement, and then we roast about 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week. And it's going to be a place to have parties, private events, elevated specialty hot chocolate and ice cream, desserts, and but the overarching brands between ice cream and chocolate is old-fashioned, right? And my brother and I grew up in a Victorian farmhouse, also from the 1860s in Media, Pennsylvania, and so we were kind of like indoctrinated into how things used to look and how things used to work, like real wooden doors that warp and have to be shaved down because it's a real wood door. We're not in a strip plaza. We are on historic ground, an historic for sure block in Old City. This is the oldest building on Market Street.
Wow.
This particular space is from the 1700s.
Wow.
So when we renovated the space, in a lot of ways it wasn't pre-prescribed what it was going to look like in here, but we discovered that pole in the back was holding up like some important structural means, so we decided to keep it and not paint over it, right? Like use the old sort of coloring, and that informed
talking about this
our,
like column
that
here?
metal column.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think for us, remaining authentic and old-fashioned was...
So for you, it's not put on. It really is like who you are.
It's sort of
it's
a form of discovery. And with the ice cream, we were like, well, we want to open up an ice cream shop, and it's going to be a soda fountain, and it's going to be themed Ben Franklin, because the name Franklin Fountain just stuck for us. We tried on a couple different names, And I was a tour guide at Ben Franklin's grave across the street,
Mm.
and Franklin's print shop was actually across the street here on the first block, this first block of Market Street, which was called High Street at the time. And
I'm
we
learning a ton.
this space, even going back in history, was a print shop, and a famous printer that was an apprentice to Ben Franklin, and his
Wow.
name was Robert Aiken. He printed the first Bible that was both New and Old Testament bound together, and he
Is that
also
right?
yeah, and he also printed Common Sense for Thomas Paine, which was a
Yeah.
major influence in the American Revolution. So this was adjacent to a famous coffee shop called the London Coffee House, right next door, and these spaces were kind of like contiguous, and so anyway, we're aware of that heritage, and how we think is very much informed by history. And we kind of, like you were saying earlier, like trying to choose the best idea, letting lots of ideas sort of be tried out,
Yeah.
and then trying to find the best. In some ways, that's sort of how we do that with history. So there's been a lot of ice cream design containers over the years.
Yes.
We make friends with collectors of historical ice cream containers.
Oh, wow.
We've visited their homes. People who kind of go obsessed with things like just ice cream containers, and
Yep.
you wouldn't believe just about anything in the world can be found. Someone's pretty obsessed about that one thing.
Yep.
And so with the ice cream box, we wanted to make it Philadelphia, and Pennsylvania. And Franklin was a real proponent of the Keystone symbol, because it held the two sides, this basically in the Middle Atlantic, the North and the South, holding it together. The Keystone being that Pennsylvania shape that we kind of take for granted, but it
Yep.
really came from a colonial origin.
That's fantastic. I think I learned like 7 things just now. But yeah, just looking at your logo here. So to describe it a little bit, it's a big red keystone shape. It says Franklin ice cream in what I would describe as kind of an old school, traditional font.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a picture of like Ben Franklin's silhouette, and it's very simple, clean,
Yeah.
old timey.
Mm-hmm.
You might think that this very container, maybe not this very one, but this style of container and this logo and stuff had been around for hundreds of years. Now, I know you said that the confectionery, what was the oldest continually running confectionery in the United States? Is that how you said it?
That's right.
But the ice cream, the ice Franken Fountain is more recent than that, correct?
Brand new.
Brand
Yeah.
new.
Yeah, 21 years old. I will just say that this ice cream box was the first patented ice cream box from 1903. And so even though it looks like a Chinese
That's
food
so
pail,
cool.
yeah, even though it looks like a Chinese food pail,
Right.
that's what it's comfortable enough for people, but they don't know that it actually was originally in 1903 patented for ice cream service. Not to say you can't eat Chinese food out of it, but you can eat lots of foods, but it's the shape, and it kind of went with the shape of the Keystone. That was the marrying of the package shape with the brand of what we're trying to get across.
That's brilliant. 'Cause it's so intentional. Right
it's
down to the shape of the container and the type of container it is, kind of matches the logo that you're going with, which matches the old timiness, comes from the colonial days.
Right.
I just continue
So
to be
we took
impressed.
this idea of the Keystone, and we have the shape of the door at the ice cream bar. It's a keystone made out of stainless steel, and then we have a novelty. Speaking of novelties, we have we called that store the Franklin Ice Cream Bar because we mold our ice cream into the keystone shape, and then we dip it in homemade chocolate sauce, and then we add toppings. So it's basically like it's an edible keystone bar, right? And then my final sort of riff on the keystone happened a couple weeks ago, which was um, to build a trash can, a ginormous Keystone trash can with a big red Keystone on it out front. So you throw your trash in the same shape as our box. So we try to go full circle
Yeah.
with like what the experience is,
Yep.
connecting it to place, because we're a brand that is historic. It's about coming here
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, and it's about understanding this is a destination ice cream and chocolate experience. So we wanted to kind of enhance that in that way.
Yeah. Do you have any idea, like what percentage of your customers are locals that you're seeing on a regular basis versus like tourists? Any idea? Is it like a 50-50 split?
Well, you know, I was a little afraid, honestly, when the pandemic occurred,
Yeah, of course.
that the business was going to tank. I mean, completely tank. Um, because we had been, some critics had just, not wanted to even try our place because they felt like crowds mean you're a sellout and you're just serving tourists. And and the so I think there was an unfounded fear of mine that the business had relied too much on tourist trade. But it was great in some ways when all tourism went away because we were able to actually see
Right.
where are our customers coming from.
Right.
And particularly at Shane's, we were able to get a little more defined information about where we're shipping our chocolates to because we get addresses.
Yeah.
Because we're not really asking for people's information at the ice cream shop at all. It's just like, if you hear foreign languages being spoken, you kind of get a sense that they're not from around here, type of thing.
That didn't sound like South Philly.
And you do get you get these waves of like Italian tourists and German tourists and French and seasonally. But we were really impressed with how many locals, Philadelphians and suburbanites, were supporting the brand and kept it going through the year, through the pandemic. In that year 2020, which like everything was out the zoo. But I mean, I still was I was thinking it was more like 70% tourism and 30%. That's what I thought, but I actually think more realistically it's probably closer to 50-50 between, if you include the western and South Jersey suburbs, that's all in part of that 50%.
Yeah.
So I think it's more like a 50-50 breakdown.
I feel like for you guys to have made it through the pandemic and everything, like you were saying, is like a big testament to yes, it's a cool building with cool images, cool branding, like really unique, interesting experience, but it's not a tourist trap. Like the stuff you guys make here is quality. Like you're going out of your way to well, I'll just use us again as an example. You're going out of your way to spend money on what might be considered an expensive boutique-y nut butter.
Yep.
Because you want to make the best pistachio ice cream in the city.
That's our goal.
Which this is that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, just again, I just give you so much credit, and I'm so impressed
Thank you,
that like, tell us a little bit about your process and like your mentality when it comes to making the product, because I know you said you make it here. You've got an upstairs over here at the Franklin Fountain, and then I think you said there's some basement spaces, and you used to make stuff like in other buildings close by, but now you're making everything right here. So tell us about your mentality with that.
Well, I guess my food philosophy as a chef is to use the best ingredients.
Better ingredients, better ice cream. Franklin Fountain. Sorry.
That
just came to me.
We don't have to transform something that's just naturally great.
That's right.
Coming into us, try to source the best, source unique, be very specific about our sourcing. That has everything to do with from nut butters to our cocoa beans that are in the basement here, they are sourced with ethics. And when it comes to sourcing like cocoa, you can of course buy on the um, like commodity cocoa, and then you can buy specialty cocoa. And um, for our applications in Shane's for chocolate, we might be looking to have beans that are really, really unique flavor profiles. For instance, one of our Colombian beans, you can make a really dark chocolate. We make a 90%, so it's only 10%
I've had
chocolate.
that. It's crazy good.
And it's got a lot of natural butter, natural cocoa butter in it, so it doesn't taste super bitter on your tongue. So sometimes the choice has to do with what you're trying to achieve. In a chocolate bar, just straight sugar and cocoa butter and chocolate. And in other cases, it's like we buy blending beans that are more or less brownie flavor profile workhorses that we might add some punch from those Colombian beans as well. But we end up having to make some. It's a real dance because of prices of chocolate have really risen, and
especially being imported, right?
Bean
Now we've got the
supply.
tariff thing that we have to worry about.
Yeah, my coconut cream just went up 10% last week for our vegan ice cream we make. And so it's just it's sort of a constant dance when you're importing and trying to support suppliers across the world of different specialty products. So you have to kind of be comfortable with change and being like, well, just because we've always bought this one thing, and a supply chain like dries up, like these beans from Ghana just weren't made available to us, so we had to go with another bean that had a similar flavor profile, and we could basically still be making our house dark chocolate with just a different bean. It has to be as consistent as we can. And we can't compromise with our ethics and our but we can compromise on maybe a supplier decision with a different bean. That's just one kind of example, but we really have 5 kitchen departments happening all the time. We've got ice cream making, that's taking ice cream mix and putting it into a batch machine and adding ingredients like nut butters and homemade caramel sauce and brownie chunks. And then we've got a candy team that's actually cooking things like caramels that are chewy and then to be chocolate coated. They also make soda syrups and baked goods in the wintertime, cookies, brownies in the Shane kitchen. We've got chocolate making, which starts with the bean. For us, we buy beans, we roast them here, turns it into chocolate. And then there's chocolatiering, which is basically taking the melted chocolate, tempered on top of that chewy piece of candy, and that's where that floor is. That floor has the enrober that it's from 1965. We've gotten it refurbished now twice, a couple of times. It was made here in Philadelphia, made well. We've replaced a lot of parts to make them last even longer. And 14 floors and 4 properties. So it's really a circus of like there's a lot.
No elevators that I know of.
Is there an elevator? There's a hand cranked elevator.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have a rope and you pull it with gloves.
Can I ride on that?
No,
that's just freight elevator.
Yeah, it's a freight only elevator.
I'm still gonna ride on it.
I'll get you over there.
Okay. So we touched on like a lot of the really cool things about Philadelphia, old city Philadelphia, right? But like, it comes with a lot of challenges being here too.
Oh yeah.
What have you? I mean, you mentioned COVID. I'm sure there's been like staffing issues over the years. Obviously, this city's not known for its super low crime rate. Have you
Mm,
had break-ins or like
mm.
what have been some of the challenges of being here in Philadelphia?
Yeah, so I guess I would say one of them is we get a lot of illegal dumping on the block
Oh,
from just all over the city, and then we get fined as a business. But I've built
that would drive
a
me insane,
I,
man.
would,
Oh
I
my
built
word.
yeah, I build a relationship of kind of constant vigilance of taking photos of people's trash that's not ours and then sending it to my councilman, more or less, the office, and basically building my case that I'm like a hyper responsible business person where it's the only answer to abuse is just being like, I'm going to show you what I do and be very transparent about it. Um, we work with an outside trash service, of course, that has pickup days, and we have an entire team, 6 people on facilities that are cleaning every day, dealing with the trash situations,
Oh my goodness.
pulling people out of the vestibule at Shane's. And unfortunately, that's another thing that we have to spend money on is building a custom grate, security grate for this little vestibule where unfortunately the unhoused do drugs and overnight and sleep and defecate and it becomes a nuisance. And unfortunately
And
the
a
drug
and
the
health concern.
it's a health concern for my staff dealing with needles, so we have like
Customers,
this
the
whole
public. Yeah.
SOP of like, yeah, my children coming down and sort of
Yeah.
seeing people like out on there's definitely an increase in the drug addiction and
Mm.
the security issues that we have to deal with here at the business. Unfortunately, that's only increased since the pandemic. But I would also say that there's a lot of intangibles um, that sort of allow you to sort of overcome these things. Like I was thinking about patience. High levels of patience
Yeah.
are required for dealing with the city of Philadelphia's municipality programs. So like you're just a number, you're just a number. So it's in a giant large system. So you have to kind of play the game and you have to be like willing to take the real long
Yeah.
approach. Be
Yeah.
real, be open to patience and time. And the other thing I think that you've shown me in your organization is just kind of an infectious, positive culture, and that
Mm.
can really overcome a lot of these um, things that might bring
Yeah.
you down. And
Because that gets old dealing with that
it's
stuff
it's
over and
it's
over.
it's
Yeah.
annoying. Um, and in some ways, you got to share the load a little bit. You got
Yeah.
to train
Definitely.
people to understand how to go about escorting people out,
Hmm.
and you do it in a buddy system. You do.
Hmm.
We have. We're working on a training of de-escalation processes, having like
Interesting.
safety workshops
Yeah.
for our
Wow.
staff, bringing
Hmm.
in the fire department. You know,
Wow.
annually now we're having this is the second annual. We've had ServSafe certifications for food safety for 10 people 2 years in a row. So now we have like way more people educated on the team.
Yep.
Generally, we have about 65 people, half of which are kind of in the part-time seasonal soda jerk role. The other 35 are kind of like more company people and about 8 to 12 managers and
Yeah.
various levels of assistant management. So there's just like a circus, there's like a 5 tent thing
Yeah.
happening, and each of them is its own. There's little teams
Yep.
happening and different cultures within. This culture is very different than this culture, and because there's different needs, and we're just doing very different things. There's
Yep.
food service, there's shipping, there's manufacturing,
Yep.
and we hopefully we can provide and present a, a space for learning. Like that we can learn from each other.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
environment of respect and community. There's a strong sense of belonging here in the company, and I'm excited that we almost model the the learning environment a little bit like a school, because we've got other things to learn from new people coming in from the outside that can be really helpful. Sometimes it's specialists that actually we pay to come in and teach our people
Yeah,
things, and then just being able to like learn from people, that's just
absolutely.
healthy.
So what, 65 employees altogether?
Roughly,
Is that what you said?
yeah,
Roughly 65.
yeah.
That's a whole bunch.
And we had 120
Did you
when we
really?
had before the pandemic. So
Pre-pandemic.
if you think about
Wow.
like the growing pains, and then the almost like the shrinking,
Yeah.
what that feels like, and then we're back to sort of needing to grow again. That's why we're opening this space for
Okay.
private events, and we're open to
Do
wholesale ice
you
cream
do you feel like you're
customers.
in a healthy spot now? Like, what is it? Like, people are more adverse to loss than they are like excited about gains, right?
Mm,
Like, just
mm,
psychologically, like, and I've felt that like it hurts more to like lose a customer
mm,
than it does the however good it feels to like gain a new customer, you
mm.
know? So going from, I know you said you had 3 locations on the waterfront
Yeah,
here pre-pandemic, and your staff has essentially been cut in half, and
right.
that must have been very
It
difficult.
was traumatic.
Do you feel like here you are 2025, like are you happy? Are you content with where you are in Franklin Fountain and the other businesses?
I definitely feel like we made the right decisions.
Yeah.
And those had to do with being kind of overstretched,
Mm-hmm.
frankly. Although we had those locations, that wasn't really best for us. We were having to open and close those every 4 months. And if you can imagine, like move
Just seasonality.
season,
Like
like
you
we literally had to move all the equipment out
oh,
and put all the signage back. And
yeah.
basically it was like being really really busy but not feeling like you know how to swim.
Yep.
You're doggy paddling, you're just trying to survive, and it's like it's exciting but it's not stable. And so
Yeah.
that feeling of for me, feeling of satisfaction is coming. There's some big projects I've taken on since January. We renovated the Shane attic. We're making that more efficient. Um,
Yeah.
Making it more systematic, like making things more clear as to where things go and
Yeah.
where staff eats, and being able to have the proper space for um, increased shipping
Right.
material or a pallet of cookies
I
that
don't
have
know
to
about
come
you,
in.
but those things aren't usually what gets me super excited, but they're all necessary components
Yeah,
that make it more efficient and better.
it feels satisfying, and it's like even if that's all I can contribute, it's like I'll take it,
Yeah.
or I'll take the satisfactions, because once it's all kind of like built out, that's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And I don't have to keep focused on that. And I
Yes.
just have to stay pliable to be like, all right, now what's my new challenge might be, now I need to learn about private catering contracts.
Ooh.
Okay, now that's my. All right, let me find out who's doing the best job of private catering spaces under 25 people in a space like this, and then learn. Just ask, like, see who's willing to give me feedback, and then try and make the best version that I can.
There you go.
And
Back to the best idea wins
that's
thing.
all we can do is
Yep.
just like try and try again.
Absolutely.
This episode of the NuttyCast is brought to you by Franklin Fountain. They are located in beautiful Old City, Philadelphia. You've got to try their ice cream. It's some of the best I've ever had, particularly their pistachio ice cream. It's made with our pistachio butter and big pieces of real pistachios. It is delicious. Mention the NuttyCast at the register and get 10% off your order of pistachio ice cream, and thank me later.
Thanks for tuning in to this podcast brought to you by Nutty Novelties. At checkout on their website, use Franklin10 for purchasing my favorite pistachio butter on their website, nuttynovelties.com. Delicious.
I wanted to ask you too. It's kind of the last official question, I guess. But I've been on season 2 here of the NuttyCast. I'm interviewing a lot of other small business owners, friends of mine, who own various types of businesses. It's been really fun. I've been like enjoying the journey. But the last question I always ask is about like where are you coming from a faith perspective, or a faith background, if at all. And I'm not trying to coerce anybody into I am a Christian, but I'm not trying to. This isn't a evangelism or anything like that. But I'm just legitimately curious, like where do you come from when it comes to faith or a higher power? And like how does your faith or how do your values, like what you've already touched on, value stuff, but how does that like influence the things that happen here at your business?
Well, thanks for asking that. It's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question, but
Good.
It's honestly refreshing.
Good.
I'm I'm just so grateful for my faith life, my faith community. I'm a member of Swarthmore Presbyterian Church,
Okay.
and my kids went to that preschool, and I participate there in various ways. I actually lead a parenting support group for parents, basically of kids that who have kids that are still in school. I've done that for this past year, doing some book studies. I play the drums, and it's really funny because it's not like a mic'd up drumming, like, but I inevitably bring that spirit. That's one of my gifts is like to share that gift with the congregation in worship services, and I have like a djembe and play hand drums, and I've been thinking about maybe starting a drum circle in the Swarthmore Drum Circle. I've been thinking about that, and I'm interested in how the drum can be used as a vehicle for interfaith connections, because I see music, particularly drums, as therapeutic, as expressive, creative, and anyway, I love my participation in that community in Swarthmore. I've been so blessed with being able to teach how to make homemade ice cream for some after school events down in Chester, which is through Chester Eastside Ministries and City Team. When we would have like ice cream that would, let's just say, has not enough peanut butter sauce in the ice cream.
Never enough peanut butter sauce.
You need more peanut butter sauce. It's like the cowbell, right? And it's like, well, what do I do with it? Over the years, we've got a relationship with City Team. I've given them one of my milkshake machines, and they can make milkshakes. So if you ever have like a slightly not perfect ice cream, you can make milkshakes out of it and hand it out, and pretty much everyone will be happy and never see that it's a problem. So
I don't think I've ever eaten ice cream that I had a problem with. I was never like, don't give me that.
There's a lot of I just talked about a lot of do's, right, in terms of faith and activity, and then there's a lot of like ways in which we treat people, of kindness, and who we're trying to reflect on.
With the way you spoke about the unhoused, and it's not like you're not going and spraying them with the hose or something like absurd like that. You're taking the time to like train your people on how to handle this situation and handle these human beings, you know, images of God.
And get to know
and
names.
Respectful.
And get to know names. Like I think that's really valuable. My kids, we live on a street where there's a gentleman who has some issues, been in and out of mental issues, and we use his name and we say, the person had walked by the house and was just kind of looking around, and when you use a name suddenly, and you're teaching kids, like, how do we talk about someone who has a mental illness that is, bare chested and just kind of like drinking a bottle of wine out on the street, and you don't know what you're like, I'm not sure if we should be too close, but trying to figure out how do we be a good neighbor. And so faith is huge for me. Very central.
You actually just reminded me of something that we say at our church, which is naming things has a way of taming things. And I know in this you're talking about a physical person, physical man with a name. But sometimes it might have to do with some mental, psychological thing in your own world, or like whatever it may be. But I just kind of got chills a little bit with just like, we know this gentleman's name, and his life has been a whole lot different than ours probably. And the decisions he makes are a lot different than the decisions we make, and we don't know, why he does them, whatever. But you know what? This man has a name, and we're going to use his name to address him. I'm like getting ready to tear up with this, because this is just like, that's beautiful.
Well, I would just also say one of the things that we've done as a company is try to establish core values that everybody can agree to. And of course, when it comes to faith, we're not projecting any one particular dogma onto others. So there's this. We've actually made it a democratic process of letting the staff determine what the values they want to live by, and one of them is humanistic. So a lot of morals of people from different faith backgrounds they want to treat people as human and make the experience human, treat the unhoused as humans, and of course, with an organization of people of many different backgrounds, without faith, with faith, various faiths, we try to foster a inclusive, supportive community of a sense of workplace professionalism and belonging, but with like a pluralism that people can bring their whole selves to work, and that they shouldn't feel like they can't just be themselves if that's how that conversation at the lunch table they want to bring that. We've had people bring mats, like staff, to be able to pray on mats, prayer mats, and so forth. So it's we haven't really focused on faith, but it is, the more you go into it, like, we want to be more human about it. As a team.
I have found with just sitting down with a lot of these people, like I said, for the NuttyCast, because I always ask this faith question. Not everybody, comes from a faith background or whatever, but it's interesting. I feel like myself included with this, it's like, it's not necessarily, we're not putting Jesus on the package or something like that. It's not like right in your face. But very much has a background influence on like almost everything that's happening. And if you're paying attention, you can really see it. So I just want to affirm you as a brother in Christ, that like,
thank you,
dude, I can see it.
Thank you so much. My daughter graduates next week, and she had to come up with a word for this poetry at the graduation, and I didn't know what she was going to say, and she said loving. And I thought, boy, that was a great answer.
That's a great word.
And nobody's going to criticize a business for attempting to be loving. And the love that you pour into your product, the love that you pour into your people, the love that you put into your packaging, your branding, it's kind of it's the best answer to every situation, and how that gets interpreted is that's just the kind of thing we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what is loving in that situation. And I think that people don't understand that you can be in a business that is actually talking about love in a way
Those sound
that's
like two different things in kind of our society. Like capitalism and lovingness.
Right. But
they don't have to be mutually exclusive things. In fact, they actually work together very well.
Absolutely.
If you can make it happen.
Yes. So my hope and prayer for you is that you continue on the loving path, and that your business will continue to serve the people that you meet every day.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Same to you.
Thank you, Caleb.
This has been a delightful conversation. Thanks again, Eric, for joining us here for the NuttyCast season 2. Thanks for sharing so openly and honestly.
Sure.
So Eric, thanks again. And just wrapping up here. As always, stay nutty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.